Hello, welcome to another very special episode of Kickpoint the Golf Gear Show. Joe, this week, we are at the Kingdom with TaylorMade. We're lucky boys, aren't we?
Isn't it lovely? Let alone the temperature and the weather is just disgracefully nice, isn't it? This facility, something else.
Something else.
Fit.
You just got fit, didn't you? We're going to
talk
talk all about that. So coming up this week, we're going to talk about our experience here at the Kingdom, what we've seen, what nuggets of information we want to give the listeners and the viewers. We'll talk a bit about your fitting that you've gone through as well for QI35. We'll talk about some of our favourite TaylorMade clubs of times gone by, because in the hallways around here, we've seen some of the greatest pieces of history, haven't we?
It's like half sort of HQ and fitting centre and half museum. It's really cool, isn't it? It's a real nod and celebration of the history, isn't there?
And then what I'm going to predict, because it hasn't happened yet, will be our greatest What's in the Bag yet, because we're going to be chatting and doing a What's in the Bag of Scottie Scheffler with the man who builds his bag every week. Well, not every week, but has built his bag and looks after his bag, Adrian Rietveld.
And arguably, that's better than having a What's in the Bag with Scottie Scheffler himself.
I think so too.
Because Adrian will know more about the specifics, the nerdy specifics that we love, than even Scottie himself, I reckon, right?
Exactly. So very exciting episode for you this week, listening and viewing. Again, if you're listening to us, great. We love that. Love audio. This could be one for the YouTube channel, though, because look at us. Apart from my burnt neck and my massive ear, I feel great. Yeah,
Dan's had a horsefly issue and a bit of sunburn, but he's really powering through to bring you, the Kickpoint viewers and listeners, some quality content. So well done, Dan.
Right then, let's before we talk about more TaylorMade clubs and our favourites of times gone by, before we welcome Adrian, let's talk about our day, Joe, the Kingdom. We've seen a lot today, and we could walk everybody through it chronologically, but I'd rather just do some of our favourite moments, to be honest with you. So I'd like to know what your highlight of the day has been.
Ooh, highlight of the day. We didn't discuss this, so thanks for that.
Sorry.
Highlight of the day. Makes it off the cuff, I suppose. Authentic, doesn't it? Right.
We are.
I really liked the CNC room. Aside from it being a bit noisy, so CNC milling room, where they seem to do a bit of everything. Not only were they prototyping golf clubs and milling out prototypes there, they were also milling out moulds and stuff for the ball area to get the dimples the right depth. They were also milling out or creating the moulds for the tour van as well, where they stick the fairway woods in the blocks, so the blocks are shaped exactly to house the fairway woods. Mm-hmm. Make them there, which might not mean much to you.
It didn't and doesn't.
That's my sort of thing. And to see that little room where all of that stuff is created, and there were some clever guys in there.
Gosh, now I have, over our little trip out here in California, felt incredibly thick in and amongst these brilliant engineers.
More so than usual.
These brilliant engineers who are just, I don't know, not only executing this, but then sort of theorising and hypothesising what's to come next and how to develop it better. And they're just talking me through this like it's nothing to them.
We saw Jesus, the man on the
I guess I was going to forget about this. This is brilliant.
On the milling machine. I wasn't going to say that he blessed me. But I sneezed and Jesus blessed me. So that was cool. But there was on the desk, there was a milled out Raw's Proto. So he's responsible for sorting out Rory's irons, isn't he? And not only was there a 6-iron in there that he's playing around with specifically for, or was it 7-iron, I think, wasn't it? Because he needed 3 extra 7-irons because the Masters wanted one. There was a few extra requirements. He was literally doing that as we were there, and then he showed us on the machine. He had a Raw's Proto 3-iron set up, and he was playing away with that and sorting the grooves, because the grooves that he had first time round he wasn't quite pleased with, so he was reassessing the grooves to about 3 microns, I think he said. It was just like a 3 micron alteration.
Which versus a human hair is just smaller, much smaller than the width of a human hair.
He was impressed with me though when I mentioned he's got more groove. I knew that Rory had another groove than everyone else, and Jesus was pleased with that, so I was pleased with that too. That made me feel rather smug, Dan. What about you?
It all makes sense now that Jesus makes Rory's irons. It all adds up. The man is blessed. My favourite part of the day, goodness me.
You had a massive burrito, didn't you?
Lunch was excellent. Yeah. Mine was actually a buffalo chicken wrap. Yours was the burrito, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
Gosh, we've had a good day. I'm going to go ball. Saw a lot of how the balls were made. A lot we couldn't film, a lot we could. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll have seen some B-roll coming up of what Joe's been talking about. We'll try and layer as much as we can over this to heighten the experience. The way they test golf balls, we went to a little dark room, didn't we, which we weren't allowed to record any of.
You did like that.
I'm hoping we're allowed to talk about it. If you're hearing about this, we've been given the all clear. Where they basically have a long black room, like a hallway almost.
Lengthwise.
Oh, gosh.
20, 30 metres?
Yeah.
Something like that?
I don't work in metres. Can we do yards?
it felt like about a 50, 60 yard pitch shot to me,
shot, where they did black and blue with all these cameras and flashes set up, where they've got this belt machine that fires golf balls down at rapid speeds to test how it's going to fly through the air.
But also what was really clever about that, it's not just firing it out like a cannon. One of the belts, the lower belt, goes quicker than the top belt to introduce backspin to show how that backspin is going to affect, and these high-speed cameras take pictures of the that was a cool.
It was
room,
broken today, unfortunately. I'd love to have seen that in action.
Yeah, we had the man in there trying to sort of work on the fix, and I didn't envy that task because that looked like a complicated piece of equipment.
Yeah, it looked like quite a lonely job as well, sat in that dark room just chucking balls at a wall.
Seemed happy. Another highlight for me, the putting room.
Oh, we saw some really cool nuggets today, didn't we?
I've got a lot of B-roll of that, so I'm going to you'll be seeing it right now if you're watching this. So we've just come off the back of the Travellers where Tommy very nearly got over the line in his PGA Tour event. And Tommy at the moment is playing a Spider. And if you look very closely at the Spider, he's got a really interesting alignment setup where he's sharpied on, or the tour rep for him has sharpied on a series of small white lines and a gold line at the front. And it's quite roughly done. And it seems like the guys were talking that Tommy actually seems to value a bit of character and imperfection in the club, because they immediately got one sorted for him where the lines were a lot crisper.
They were milled in properly.
And milled in properly. And he was like, no, I quite like the one I've got. So
Which
the
is
lines
crazy to me.
It's strange.
It's something to do, it all blurs into one and he focuses on it, and it's one of these things, isn't it?
Historically, I can see that because he's been that way in all of the putters that I can think that he's had it. I remember seeing him in a 2-ball once with a really fuzzy blurred line that he'd drawn himself, his old White Hot 2 I think it is, or 3, whichever one it was. There was some handmade alignment aids on there with pen. He feels like he likes the sort of character of a putter, but in there I got to pick up, got hands on another one they'd milled out as an option for him that was getting sent out to him. I could see that on the label. That's getting sent out for testing. It was a Nelly Corda Proto, which I took some footage of. I'm going to put that up there. That was really cool. We got into ZT a bit, didn't we? The Zero Tour.
Was that your first go with it as well? Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, soft, isn't it?
Really
soft.
Good, Dan. Good review.
Thank you. That's all I've got to offer, really. And
no,
pretty.
Right,
we've said this before, though. I can't remember if we said it on the pod before or not. It's the first Zero Tour putter that isn't hold my language.
Fugly.
Completely gormless.
Gormless.
I think all had to look funny for some reason, because it sits in the Spider family. You're like, it's got design language I recognise.
Yeah, and a couple of the nuances of Zero Talk putters were a little more subtle on the ZT. The shaft isn't as far back in the head, so it's not as onset as some. And like you say, you got the more familiar Spider size. So I can see how that's going to resonate with a lot of people. And you're right, I was sort of joking, but it's really soft, feels great off the face, so that was cool.
But that little corner of TaylorMade's HQ today was where I felt like I was really getting a cool peek behind the curtain. Like, that is where the tour players that we love watching are actually getting their putters made by these people. That's just for tour, that room, and they're all getting made there, and they're getting prototypes, and they're sending them out, several of these putters at once, so they've got them with them on tour. And Bob Mack had one in there.
I was going to say, we saw a few more tour player numbers on there. There's a bit of, they gave us a Rory one in his exact spec, the torch finish, which we were having a look at. I could see a few things on the desks. There were little notes from tour players and requests. That was quite cool. That was
I was keeping my eyes peeled all day for some sense of a prototype for what's coming next year, because obviously that's going to be out there somewhere. Did you? Yeah, I think I did.
In the CNC machine.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
In the CNC room. Yeah, there was a few little plastic mouldings on the desk that I've not seen before, unless they were a prototype of something that got dismissed a while ago. But there's some cool looking stuff. I think there's some big stuff to come from TaylorMade. I think
that's it, isn't it? And should we talk about the Kingdom where we're sat now, which is, you said when we walked up here, actually, we see it so much on YouTube, and you've seen so many fittings take place here, and Trotty work here, who we'll speak to later. You also sort of recognise it. I know this place.
Yeah, it felt like I could have shown myself through and know where everything was. It was, it's nice, and it's exactly as nice as I thought it would be. It's gorgeous, isn't it? It's for someone I was getting fit for a driver, I'm not going to say claustrophobic. There's a big bank on the left with some foliage in, some foliage on the right, and then I walked onto the range. It was quite a hefty into and off the left wind, which is my least favourite wind. So I had to sort of lock in a bit. But I had a really great fitting. Matt Simone just took me to a driver fitting using their fitting head with the sensors in. So talking about rate of closure, and we had a really interesting discussion about that, because I've always worried that I'm a real flipper and releaser of the club. And he was, and that's a flaw, because I look at like a Morikawa or a Hovland, people who hold the face and see it square for so long and think that's how I should swing it, that's the most efficient way. He told me about a study that's been done where there's no correlation between a low rate of closure and money earned on the PGA Tour or driving accuracy. It's just your sort of DNA, and you've got to work and get your equipment.
He described it as like a thumbprint, didn't he? It's like, don't worry about it. That's just you. You're not going to change
exactly
it.
that. And so many of us look at what other people have got and think, I'd love a bit of that. That's what I need. But as soon as you start going away from what you naturally do, it's a risky play. And instead of that, he fitted me into a shaft that complemented my release pattern rather than made me have to do too much.
And it was a decent switch for you. You've been a Ventus Black guy for as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
A whole year now. And was that a weird switch for you? Is that something you expected? Is it something you liked? Like, what was your opinion on having to move into a different profile like that?
It's not something I'd have naturally thought, because again, I'm a high speed player, so I'm like a 118 to 120 and a bit sort of clubhead speed with driver. So the lazy fitter in me, who hasn't put much time into myself over the last couple of years, just thinks, right, the stiffer, the more stable the profile, that'll be fine. But
because you tip your shafts,
so I try and tighten up the
black
torque.
Profile shafts. Yeah.
Correct. So I try and tighten up the torque at the end. But essentially, what that was doing for me was making that sort of flippy release even more necessary. So because the club head the tip wasn't soft enough to allow my club head to release naturally, I was having to do that with my hands. It was almost exacerbating, not the problem, but exacerbating my natural release pattern and creating a bit of a two-way miss. Then all of a sudden went just a touch softer in profile into the blue, so slightly softer in tip. And all of a sudden the club face just wanted to square up a little bit easier, and I didn't have to work to do it. And yeah, dispersion came a lot better. Good hot numbers. He was very complimentary. I guess he's trained to do that, right?
Yeah, it's part of their people training, I suspect. Regardless of how you're hitting it, they'll find a way to gas you up. Yeah,
but yeah, he did. But he was great. Really, not overly. I guess the temptation somewhere here, where you've got all this tech, all the shaft options, everything in the sun, is just to try and show people how clever you are and dazzle them with all the resources. He didn't do that. He just kept it super simple. Yeah, look, this tip profile isn't doing you many favours. It's causing you to work too hard. Let's go a touch softer. Then we'll play around with the settings. So we went in the upright side of the sleeve to help me feel like I wasn't going to miss it right, which is the one I fear. Just a really good fitting, and we're gonna put that somewhere, aren't you? So you can see that.
So it's either available to watch now or will be coming soon. One of those two options on the Kickpoint YouTube channel. How good's that?
Did you enjoy watching it? What did you pick up?
The thing I picked up the most is, like, I don't feel like technology is not that old in fitting, and we're all still learning so much, and these companies that are putting loads of money into their R&D are learning so much. So this QI35 fitting head, and we spoke to some of the sort of big heads at TaylorMade today as well, saying, yeah, we can build this ability to fit with technology in the heads more. This has just started, and the way that changed your fitting and changed what you spoke about, it felt like we're just scratching the surface, and fittings are just going to become better and better and better as time goes on, and we're all still learning so much about this game. It's what makes us so interested in it, you and I and everyone listening and watching, and makes these guys, this company and all the other companies around here, keep ploughing money into this stuff, because there's so much still to discover.
That's a really good point, because even without that fitting head, that fitting would have looked different, because I don't think we'd have really discussed. Don't think we'd have discussed rate of closure quite as much as we did. He'd have seen it going right, and maybe addressed that with face angle, maybe addressed it with lie angle more than he did with shaft profile. But because of the conversation, because you could measure that rate of closure so accurately, it became apparent that was a good place to start. And I wonder how long it'll be. We did some probing, didn't we? I wonder how long it'll be before we see that filter down into fairway widths, irons, putter.
Just going to say, when are we getting that in an iron head?
It's a no-brainer for a putter.
Surely they're going to try and... They've got to figure out how that works first, right? And work with TrackMan and Foresight and these people.
We can do that, can we? You and me. we got half an hour after this.
Well, after the people I've met today, Joe, I'm lucky to be stood on this soil. I honestly just thought I'd just start dribbling from the side of my mouth. And
You're lucky you don't
fall
over more.
Desperately tried to contribute some questions that you were asking, more interesting ones than I was.
There was a moment where you felt you had to contribute, and you just kept repeating back to some engineers things he'd said to you, which I pulled
which
you
picked up on.
So sorry about that.
Thanks for that.
Saving you from yourself, really.
Yeah, it was great.
But yeah, pretty awesome, isn't it? We are very lucky.
Great. But before we go to the Adrian Rietveld interview, Joe, I will reference the sun's moved quite a lot.
Hasn't it?
What has just happened, in no space of time for you because we cut, is Adrian arrived and we did the interview.
We're just agile. We're fleet-footed.
We are so fleet-footed.
Fluid, don't we? We can deal with these things. We just get back on track.
But what I wanted to say before I got cut off by Adrian, who's coming up in a minute, is seeing a lot of historical clubs today, a lot of TaylorMade history, a lot of the old logos, all that cool stuff. We must talk about some of our favourite TaylorMade clubs. I felt bad for Ty's list in a recent episode that I didn't really have any. I've got some today.
Okay.
But you go first, because you're a TaylorMade boy,
I
right?
am.
This is your brand, but
I've got to remain somewhat objective. But
no, tell me. Talk about your feelings.
Just growing up, I was just a TaylorMade guy. I played a lot of TaylorMade stuff, loved the product, so I've always had a bit of an affinity for the brand. So I've got some fairly strong opinions on my favourite TaylorMade stuff. Where do you want me to start, Dan? Do you want me to start fairways, irons, wherever?
I broadly don't care.
Good to know. So my favourite driver, and I recently did a little retro review on this, and this holds a special place in my heart because it's the first golf club I ever got for free.
Ooh,
so when you start getting on
for what reason?
When we start getting
it?
on like England squads, yeah, I stole it. And when you start getting in national squads and stuff, there's people that knock around the ranges that have a chat with you and, how's your gear, can I help you with anything? And like, when you're, I don't know, 16, 17, whatever, of course you can help me. Help me with everything you've got in your car because you want it all,
question,
don't you?
Isn't it?
And it was the TaylorMade R510 TP driver. Little squat head, quite deep. Just a beautiful, beautiful profile. I had it in this old, it was TaylorMade Graphics Fujikura Speeder shaft, red and silver. And it was just, for me, it was sort of the first time spin. I became really aware of spin. It was a pretty low spinning number back in the day. And I just started to see a completely different ball flight. I started to see a really...
That one?
Oh, no. Away from that one. I had that one. I had the low riser. I had the low riser off the aircraft carrier one. But this one just peaked, like sort of set off a touch higher, but just didn't climb, just kept going forward. It was harsh. It was aggressive. And I remember taking it, I got it sort of back end of a year, and I took it with my friend. We were playing the Sunningdale foursomes, and I just hit some, quite frankly, obscene drives around Sunningdale with it, and they stick with me massively. I just think that was that was a real peak for me with TaylorMade. I loved that driver. My
favourite TaylorMade club was a similar story of my first. It was the first club I remember getting bought for me that wasn't a proper junior set.
Okay.
Because my dad bought it for me. American Golf. Got fit, in quotation marks. I had a whack with it in the net.
At your age, this is going to be like Stealth 2 or something, isn't it?
2012. So
okay.
How old was I in 2012? 15.
Mm.
And it had the white head. And it was a rescue that just became... They were quite trendy back then. RBZ.
Yeah.
RBZ.
Little speed slot. The rescues were underrated.
It was good. But I felt like an adult then. It was like I'd hit maturity. Golfing maturity.
Okay, so that was a coming of age club for
Absolutely,
you,
yeah.
Lovely.
I've still got it. I've got a nice green golf pipe grip on it that blends into the green and white shaft, which you don't like. But
the Rocket Balls hybrids were underrated. Everyone talked about the fairway wood because a lot of the marketing was around that. I had a Tour 2 Rocket Balls hybrid.
Yeah.
16, 17 degrees. This was just It just had a one-iron flight. It was beautiful. I love that.
And as we pleaded with some of the TaylorMade folk earlier, if they don't bring an RBZ mini driver to market in the next 5 years, I'll be having such strong words.
They're missing a trick. We put a little poll out, didn't we? I think on socials, and that came back pretty highly ranked in there. Another one for me. Again, I've spoken about this one before on the pod. The Aeroburner fairway wood, the TP version.
Mm-hmm. What era are we in here?
We'd have been not dissimilar to Rocket. I think it was just after Rocket Balls. I'm going to say 2013-ish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was around that sort of era. And I said this before. Sorry, I feel bad because we're here. I wasn't in love with the name. Didn't like the name Aeroburner. Didn't love the Didn't love the graphics. It was quite fussy. So as a visual, I wasn't mad keen. But you just couldn't ignore the performance. It had this little very deep head for a fairway. It had this little sort of raised bar that ran across the centre, which helped you. It helped me sort of centre the ball at address and stuff like that. And it was a bit of a guide for your takeaway. This thing was hot. It felt it went. It felt very hollow and very sort of tingy. It was almost like, you know how I am with my my funny little Odyssey toe-up putter. Don't like much about it. Don't like the way it looks. Don't like the way it feels. But it goes in low.
Goodness me, it works.
It goes in loads.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what I was with that. And it was just, God, it was such a great performing fairway wood.
I'm going to come back into the modern era. My TaylorMade Spider Tour putter.
You love that.
Ever leaves my bag, something amazing is going to have happened. Hold lots of putts with it. Love the Pure Roll insert. That just works as a piece of technology. Don't touch that, TaylorMade, if you're listening. what's the alignment aid called again?
True Path.
True Path alignment helps my weird little eyes. Nice big black line running through it, so I can line my ball up. Now I'm doing my aim point, and there is not much wrong with that I would ever want to change. And we were speaking to some of their TaylorMade putter folk today, whose names have escaped me, which I feel quite rude about.
Paul and Joe.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Is that correct?
I don't know.
Bad. Anyway, they're saying that
Get in the nod.
they accidentally overcomplicated Spider, I think, a little bit in the last 5 years before they brought out the latest iteration in 2023, the one I've got in, with the GT and some other bits, and kind of tried to fiddle with it a bit when they don't need to, do they? I think Spider's such a well-loved franchise, a well-loved brand that keep it simple.
It's tough
People
though, right?
fall
Isn't
in
it?
love with that thing.
Because we asked that question about P790. When you've got such a successful product and franchise, how do you keep reiterating without straying from the DNA of what made people love it in the first place? So I get why they pushed it to a certain extent, but
it's good they've recognised.
Great to recognise it and come back.
If that ever comes out of my bag, I'll be gobsmacked.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where to go. I've got so many. The 300 forged irons I love. They were I remember them being on the cover. I think it was Golf Monthly back in the day. I hope it was.
Was it the magazine?
Goosen. I don't think they exist.
No.
Goosen had them, and they were just in this. He had like a full-length bag shot, and they were just gleaming in the bag, and they just looked so cool. I loved those. I think Poulter played them back when he was a TaylorMade player. SLDR for me was great, again, as a high-spin player. Such a low-spin product, both in driver and in fairway. I used to love the little Tour Spoon, the little TS version of that.
I wish we had an equipment podcast back then for the Loft Up campaign. I think that would have been quite a fun talking
that
point
would
for
have
us
been a great chat. Yeah, Loft Up campaign. That would have been brilliant. But yeah, just been so many cool products for me. So like this has been genuinely a really class day for me. It's been a busy day, but it's been a class one.
We'll do the outro in a minute. What we should do now is pass over to your chat with Adrian Rietveld, which has now happened. And after having sat and watched
Weird podcast this. You alluded to we don't know what's going to go on with it. We've picked up like 5 minutes later and it's now happened.
It's now 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Now it's happened, and you're going to listen to it now. And now I know for a fact it's a wonderful interview about Scottie Scheffler's What's in the Bag.
Enjoy. Right, what a treat. We are here at the Kingdom, TaylorMade Kingdom, Carlsbad, California, and we're going to do our finest What's in the Bag ever. We're going to do Scottie Scheffler with the man who built and fitted his clubs, Mr. Adrian Rietveld. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
It's well rehearsed. It's like you've done that before.
Kick point.
Kick
Off-gear show. I love it.
You got it, yeah. You
Kick point.
you like these microphones, don't you? You seem to be a big fan. No, we really appreciate that. It's the attention to detail we were chatting about earlier, you know?
Amazing,
Yeah, absolutely. Should we start from the top?
let's do it.
Driver. So I'm going to go specs, 8 degree, QI10 dot head, Ventus Black, 7X, 45 inches cut,
You got it?
D4 swing weight. Am I right?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, because you said cut.
So we've spoken about this on the pod before. Some people go to cut length, some people go to finish length. So if we're cutting at 45 inches, his Golf Pride 58 Tour Velvet 58 ribbed will take another eighth of an inch, right?
An eighth, yeah.
And that will affect the swing weight reading, right?
Yeah, and really we would always work on cut length onto a, when you're working with techs who build your clubs, and sometimes you build them, sometimes the truck's pretty busy. I think where it really matters for these, there's obviously rules in how long you can have a driver, and if you had a 46 cut driver, that driver's illegal as soon as you put a grip on it. So it just gets the detail kind of accurate between everybody working within the spec.
Is that same? I know you're TaylorMade specifically. Is that same tour wide? All the other tour vans work to cut length, to your knowledge?
No, I don't. No, I wouldn't be able to speak for them. No.
Okay.
I think for me personally, as an equipment guy out there, I think I get the most accuracy out of working with cut lengths, taking specs, and because if a player changes grips as well, your whole spec will be off if you didn't start with a cut length.
So would you measure how much the grip cap is on each different grips? Does that vary a lot between grips?
No, it's most of the time it's between an eighth and a quarter inch. You could say give or take a 16th there, because depending on which part of the grip you're looking at, some people might look at I would consider end of grip, it is rounded,
slightly domed, yeah.
Multi-compound, it's quite flat, so you could probably get a bit more accurate there, but just work with cut lengths. It's It's not hard.
Cool. So getting into the details a bit on the driver,
Yeah.
I always notice a slightly more vibrant blue on his QI10 face than some of the others I see out on tour. What's that about?
So he does like the face to pop. He plays. It's 7.5 degrees aloft. The exact loft at the end of that, the way I measure on the Dela Cruz, and so for him it was more about the transition from Stealth 2 into QI10, making that smooth for him from a visual standpoint. It's you could say it's a little bit about the brightness of the face, but really he doesn't have a top line on the driver, which is it's on all of our drivers.
Yeah.
So that's again, when you're talking about looking at the face, he likes to see as much of the face as he can, and that's what that helps him at that low loft.
Because he's at 7.5 loft,
it's a lot of loft.
So the loft he's ended up in, so an 8-degree head. We lofted down notches in terms to get it to 7 to get it to 7.5. So it's at a standard setting. It's just a
standard setting. Yeah. So we're again, I would say let's call it between 7.5 and 7.75, and you can head sort to get that within the tolerance, so that he can have that exact loft that he's always played and looked at. Okay,
and internally, so the stuff we can't see. Is there anything going on internally with that driver head? Is he someone who's had some hot melt to influence the shape, or is that pretty standard?
This is quite unique about him. Is he doesn't like any hot melt in the driver.
Okay.
So the driver is pretty much exactly what we would, bar from the face, what we would sell in the shop. The key things about the head for him is that it's 203 head weight. Now that's pretty heavy. For probably looking around, if there was a standard out there, you're probably looking at around 195, I'd say, to 197. For him at 203, it's quite hard to build a driver with no hot melt in. But what he has got is he's got a 24 gram weight in the back, which is the standard weight. I think is 18 grams. So it's a little bit heavier back weight, and then in order to hit that 203 exact, we've actually got a titanium screw in the front, which weighs a gram less than a steel screw. Job done.
There you go, and then you get to your 203. Nice neutral setup.
Literally exact. 1.5 degree sleeve on the upright side. It gets to 58.5 lie on the way I measure it. 7.5, 7.75. Very back CG driver, not very forgiving. Has to move left to right, predominantly. That's it.
So how easy was the switch when you had to change driver recently? Was it just you found that really easy just to plug and play? Because it can be really difficult, right, to find an exact replica that feels.
No, we worked weeks before. Yeah, again, and I think this goes for every. For all players, at that level, you're high 170 ball speeds. You've had your driver for over a year. If you're a professional of the highest standard, you're gonna work towards your next driver, or your next options of driver. So for Scottie, it was pretty. It was a couple of hours at Oakmont and 9 holes on the golf course. But that was the finishing, the cherry on top of 2 weeks of pretty robust work.
So behind the scenes, then, how many, like right now, how many drivers would he have available to him that he would be comfortable going in? So
he would have had 4 to choose from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crikey, you've been busy.
Yeah. At one point he had none, but we. Yeah, and that's what you do, right? You kind of you're working in a few different lanes. Obviously, in certain aspects, you're trying to find performance. In certain aspects, you're just trying to find the same. And then depending on the situation or the circumstance, how ready he is at that time. When that time comes, he will then go with what he feels most comfortable with.
Fascinating.
To win. the
to
major.
win, which pays your bills, right? That's good for you.
Well, I mean,
Validates your stuff, doesn't it?
it's yeah. I would say he was more prepared than almost anyone I could think of in that regard.
Moving on to fairway wood, so going with 3-wood. I always find his specs quite interesting here. So 15 degrees, so he's in the QI10, the unicorn that we spoke about earlier, which is the bonded hosel QI10, 15 degree, playing at 14.75. Are these right? Because these are things I hear.
Yeah, it's not 15.
Okay,
it's not 15. It's let's go with 14.75 because it's not 40. It's not quite 14 and a half.
So is that head that's been cherry picked to be at that loft, or has it been bent to that loft?
It would have been bent to that loft. Yeah.
Cool. D3, 42 and 5/16 of an inch.
5/16.
That sound about right?
Yeah.
Tipped an inch and a half.
Tipped an inch and a half.
But he goes into, am I right? He goes into 8x. He goes, so he's kind of, compared to a retail stock 3-wood, he's kind of short
Very
and
short.
heavy.
Yeah.
Why?
Very short. So it's not a distance. It's not about distance for him in the 3-wood. It's a club that has to hit a certain yardage. In his mind, it's 275, and then it's got to spin 33 to 3500, and from those launch characteristics, he can hit all his shots. He does like to draw his 3-wood from time to time, so it's got to have the ability to do that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what.
So what would he do to encourage that draw? Obviously, the more loft makes it a little bit easier to turn over naturally. Does he do anything with lie angle or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's more loft. I mean, it's what did I say there? 58 on the lie, 58 and a half.
You didn't mention lie.
It didn't put lie angle in there.
No, there was an oversight, but thanks for pointing it out, Adrian.
Okay.
So if you could fill in the blanks, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's 58 lie angle.
Yeah.
So what else jumps out at you there, Mr. Kickpoint?
A 58 lie. It's not particularly upright, is it? It's 58
No,
fairly standard.
No, good.
Short, heavy.
Short, heavy. How
Bent.
do you, so there, yeah, you've just nailed it there, right?
Yeah.
So how does it get heavy?
Head weight. Okay. So
Yeah.
is it where he's putting that head weight?
Exactly.
So we're moving that heel side.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So
I like that you called me Mr. Kickpoint. I enjoyed that. Okay. So how much heel side?
So you're looking at the best part of 12 grams of hot melt in that head.
So he doesn't mind that in fairway, but doesn't like it in driver.
No, and it's more of a sound thing, I think, with the driver and also the ability to, to replicate the driver is a big deal for him. Obviously, it's pretty specific. The 3-wood you have loft to play with. You have things that you can work with when fitting them into a new 3-wood. I think with the driver, the spec is very much the spec. It's extreme on the loft. The setting standard upright. The second you move it off there, it's gonna affect the face angle of the lie. So there's a lot more that kind of helps the fitter in the 3-wood. And I think the fact that he plays such a short 3-wood, you can hit the lie that he wants to see, and then you can also put the hot melt in the right place for both spin and dispersion, right to left, left to right.
Okay, interesting. Now, I would normally have nipped to long irons, but he seems to be in and out of... You seem to be Mr. Lofted fairway wood nowadays. Every time I see someone put in a 7-wood or a 9-wood, you're never far away from it.
Yeah, I preach it, man.
Yeah, you're never far away from it. So the specs I've got here, so 21 degrees, Ventus Black 9X in the QI35, right?
Yeah.
Went in around Tory?
He went in at Tory, yeah.
What was the idea with it? Whose idea was it? Was it him? Did you suggest it?
No, Teddy's idea, right? Or Teddy's suggestion. Teddy's suggestion. Scottie turned up on the track. We went upstairs. I mean, he is very specific when it comes to his equipment, and we spoke about that earlier. But went upstairs, had a meeting on it. What are our options? He wanted a 5-wood. The reason he wanted the 5-wood was one, the par threes, long par threes, but also, it was very hard to advance your ball out of the rough at Torrey that week, and there was a lot of talk within the tour players because this was the genesis. Remember, so Torrey had been played a few weeks earlier, and that was a big thing that kind of whispered amongst the tour players, is that there's a real advantage to having a high lofted fairway wood in your bag around Torrey. So we had the meeting, and I kind of told him that a 5-wood's going to go too far just because of the way he plays his 3-wood. He was adamant on a 5-wood, so you add the 5-wood to the build spec. So you probably built 4 clubs at the end. So 4 clubs. I would have built the 5-wood that he asked for in kind of the spec that he wanted, so that he could see what it does. And then I went into building stronger 7-woods and kind of pure 7-woods, and now you have the 80 and the 90 gram shaft option. So it's a bonded head. So you just want to make sure you turn up to the range with all your options, which can tick his boxes for ultimately the distance it wants to go. And the ball flight, but also his feels, right? Is the 9X going to be too heavy? He's not used the 9X. Then you've got the 8X that you can just fall back on. Is one going to spin more? Is one going to turn over more? So you do a pretty calculated spread of builds, of which that maybe a small tweak here or there to one of them will be perfect.
And then you just go test, just get the numbers.
Go test, get the numbers. Hits the 5-wood. 5-wood goes as far as his 3-wood. That's out. You knew it, but now he does. And then you move into kind of, okay, hit these 2 for me. Which shaft? Tell me which shaft feels more stable for you. Straight away gravitates towards the 9, and I think that's a product of just the length of the golf club, right? His 3-wood short. This is almost like a short 7-wood as well.
That was going to be my next question, is how do you settle on a length for 7-wood with someone like Scottie? Is that like you've said there, you're taking into account that shorter 3-wood length already, so it needs to blend in with that, right?
Exactly right, yeah. So you're trying to I think his 3-wood's so short already, so you essentially would just want to take an inch off that, and then kind of start there. But yeah, that's you're trying to match the bag up as clean as you can, right? So he doesn't hit something and go, oh, that feels good, and then it doesn't really fit with the rest of his bag. So anything that he can end off with, should, in my opinion, as a first attempt, the lie angle should flow. You know what I mean? The loft should flow, the tip-ins should flow. All these things, you can go home with a clear mind saying, I fitted a good golf club there. And for him, he still calls it a 5-wood today. So, no.
I guess if it serves.
He still calls it a 5-wood today, but it was, essentially, you again. I think it was replacing a 3-iron, so it had to go as far as that 3-iron went. So when he had that yardage, he had the club for that yardage. So he wasn't trying to lose anything. Trying to figure out a new yardage and where that fitted in his bag. So that was interesting, because I think, right at the end of the session, the 7-wood was going 3-4 yards further than his 3-iron, although at a much higher window, a beautiful flight. And he was like, it's got to go to at least 2 yards shorter. So
where do you go from there? You just weaken it off, or
it's just a a nudge, a quarter of a degree aloft, and away you go. It adds a little bit of spin, it takes it off a little bit of speed, and bang, there you get your number, right? To your that club, we only finally, he thought after playing that for 3 weeks, about 3 weeks or 3 or 4 weeks, that the lie angle needed changing. So we obviously tested that. This was when he had come full circle away from the injury. He was back to his full speeds, and Randy were with us, and I think we moved the lie angle half a degree up, and that was the club, and that was just before. That was in Dallas, Byron Nelson. When he won, he shot 31 under par or whatever. So we had literally tweaked that club that week. I love the way it's getting game time in his bag.
It's still an in and out club. It's course dependent.
Well,
is it?
I think it's more in than out,
Yeah.
which is nice, and I think that's testament to how these PGA Tour courses are being set up, and him obviously growing with confidence at just how easy this is. I mean, the first conversation we ever had about a high lofted fairway wood or even a 5-wood was a year earlier, and we were at American Express in the desert, and he was playing with Sam Burns and JT, and these guys would hit 5-woods and 7-woods, and they would just put swings on it. The ball would start up there, and he would just pull his 3-iron out, and again, he would have to manipulate it to get it high in the air or do things with the ball that these other guys wouldn't. So I said, you could just have a plug and play here. And then he'd pull out his 3-iron and hit a unbelievable golf shot and say, "What, like that?"
I'm all right, thanks, Adrian.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
I actually asked him once when we first met, and I was at Royal Oaks with him, and I'm just trying to build my relationship with him. So over servicing, and we were walking around the clubhouse, and I said to him, "Scotty, we're off to the Open soon. Should we start preparing a 2-iron?" And he just looked at me as if to say no. He said, "If I want to hit it low, I'll just hit it low."
Nice place to be, right?
Yeah, and I think the simplicity of that is part of his superpowers, really.
It's a good segue onto our next bit, though, longer irons. So I want to know, generally speaking, I'm at the Kingdom, I'm with Adrian Rietveld. I'm going to talk about another brand very briefly. So he's got some older Strixon longer irons that he plays in and out, right?
Yeah.
I was always curious, so do you as a TaylorMade guy, do you still kind of maintain those? So you do the loft and lie checks on those, re-grip those?
I check his whole bag pretty much every week that he's playing. There'll be the odd week that he will forget or something like that, but I would say pretty much every week religiously we check his whole bag, and I'll make sure that whole bag is perfectly set up to his spec.
Regardless of what it is.
From wedge all the way through to driver. Yeah, he trusts me as his guy to do that.
Cool. Right, into irons then. So we're looking at a lovely shiny set here.
Yeah.
P7 TW. It's been such a popular iron with so many people outside of Tiger. So Tommy in it, right? Aaron Rye, Scheffler. What led him towards that? What do you think he likes about that product? I know what I like about it in terms of feel, but what do you know? What led him there?
He's a blade guy. He played 730s before. I think what people don't realize about this isn't his 730s in a Tiger spec, in a Tiger Woods iron. The spec on these are very different to those 730s that he played.
Specifically, how?
Length, lie,
Everything.
swing weight, grip.
Wow, everything.
Yeah. Not the shaft and not the head, but he went through a process with Randy's coach and the team around him, where he actually went shorter in length, more upright in lie angle, makes sense, and he went through a big process of figuring out his grip, and that's where the 6 tapes with the rib grip came on, since from a swing weight standpoint, obviously you've got a heavier head weight to try and get them to swing weight. He played his irons were I'm gonna say they were more than an inch longer than standard, which means he always struggled with swing weight.
Okay, it's naturally going to go heavy.
To get the whole set to swing weight nicely. So that was a nice. I think now he's very particular about swing weight, but it's very easy to keep him happy in that regard. Whereas he's not having to play a heavy swing weight just because of the spec of the golf club.
Okay, interesting. Well, you just touched on grips there, so let's get into that. We had a little chat about it earlier.
Yeah.
So he's a 58 ribbed tall velvet, 6 double layers of tape, and you told me incredibly sensitive to where that rib is, so much so that he doesn't often change grip, right?
No, he doesn't. He takes about. I mean, we're in no rush, right? We're in no rush, but sometimes you do have to kind of like egg him on that. You're coming to the end of the life of this set of irons. We need to get moving on the next set, and it takes him, I'd say, about 3 months probably to get into a set of irons, and that's on his time, and that'll be everything from, the swing weights to the grips. If I send him a set of irons that I've built to his spec from our tour workshop over here, which is normally like the start of the process, then I'll send him with about 30 grips, 15, 30 grips, and that's just because he will change the grips where necessary, where he feels like he needs to as he goes through the set. The less grips he changes, the better job I've done with the set. But he is extremely particular about the grips, and we'll weigh them. I have I'll actually show you afterwards. I'll show you his iron spec sheet.
That'd be great.
Which has every bit of detail on it.
For those of you watching, if Adrian allows, we might pop it up on the screen. Maybe not. Maybe I'll discuss that with Adrian.
We can look at it. I mean, and how the spec sheet actually evolved was, I just got my guy over here, Jim Armstrong, to basically document every single thing that's going on, right? So from the slug weight to the how much glue you use, to the shot. Every shaft has a slight tolerance.
The slug weight, just to clarify for people listening, the tip weight.
Yes.
That adds swing weight in the shaft.
So now when you come to replicating that, you can pick exacts, head weights, grip weights. I learned a lesson from the 6 layers of tapes once. I asked him to hit an iron for me that I was testing on at the Players Championship. We were just doing some R&D stuff, and sometimes he'll just hit a club. So I built it in his spec, and because it's 6 layers of tape, I was wrapping each layer over the butt of the club. Does that make sense?
Yes, you're building it up.
I was actually building it up, and he hit. I mean, he hit a few shots for me, and as I was walking away, I was like, this grip's not on, and it was because it had nothing to grip itself onto, because I had built up the tape too much on that.
So how do you counteract that? You use one piece that goes down the
100%,
and then stop it.
Yeah, exactly. So only your last layer really kind of seals up everything.
Interesting. That's a good little nugget.
Yeah, it's the things you learn.
There'll be people screaming now, asking about the training grip, asking about the training club, but full disclosure, we've had a chat before, and I bored Adrian senseless about that already. So there'll be another piece, which I'll link in the description below. You can talk about that, because we went at length on that, so I'm not going to put you through that again. But make sure to check that out, because that's really interesting. Wedges he's in Vokies. I've just seen some really exciting looking new wedges from TaylorMade. Is that something that you'll be getting, that Scott will be testing and having a look
for
at?
Us, yeah,
because they look great, right?
I think we've got a look. There's a time and a place for everything, and in Scottie's world, there'll be a time and a place where he'll test some wedges for us in depth, right? He's not a big switcher, and he's very much loves what he has. If you hang around with him around practice rounds, and just like even at the photo shoot, where he uses TaylorMade wedges at the photo shoot, for content and that type of stuff. He's an exceptional. I think it's the most underrated part of his
Fully
game.
Agree.
It is something to watch, right? The short game and the variety of shots that he has. I would say probably most underrated but best short game I've ever come across.
It's a pretty tough combo to beat, isn't
it? And that's bunkers, from bunker play to pitching, everything back to probably 60, 70 yards.
Delving back into the spec side of things, historically, my understanding is a few players might consider going a bit flatter in their wedges than in their main set of irons. Is that something Scottie does, or is he kind of a constant lie angle guy?
No, I'd say no. His wedges are the same lie angle, but they're more upright than
as one another.
Yeah. So some people will go even from a 9-iron. They'll have the same lie angle all the way through, and then they play flatter because of the length.
Yes.
Scottie's wedges are the same. They're half a degree more upright than his pitching wedge, but then they're all the same, and then a round grip on the 60.
Oh, so he goes round on the 60. There you go. That's good stuff for me. That's good stuff for me. Love a bit of grip talk. Yeah, kick point. Mr. Kick Point. Finally, on putter. So there was obviously, we're going back a little bit now, so there's a bit of time where he was struggling, and he's ended up with one of the greatest equipment changes potentially in history on financial terms. How was that for you? Is that something you worked with him specifically on?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest equipment project or story or switch, whatever you want to call it, I'd say that I've ever been involved with, and from a significant standpoint. I mean, I think when all is said and done, and you're right in it, like now I'm right in it, right? So a player winning the Masters is a great accolade, and you've been a part of that, but you don't really reflect on it or anything like that. But I think when it's all said and done, I really believe that I'll look back and go, wow, I was a part of that journey and that switch. So many moving parts, so many things because I think it was purely because you're not switching a putter for the wrong for any reason but to try and get better and to try and figure out this category and this part of your game.
Can I just ask, in terms of when you end up on that final spec, because he's relatively long in shaft, isn't he? I think he's like 36, is it? Something like, or 35 and a half?
35 and a half, yeah.
And a touch more upright than standard. Is that something, who figures that out? Is that you as the equipment guy? Is that Phil Kenyon? Is that a collaborative process?
So I think altogether you figure it out, right? So I still remember when he finally settled on this particular putter, we had sent 4 putters at different lengths, but with lie angles to match. I think for him, 2.5 71 has kind of always been his wheelhouse, where he
2.5 loft, 71 lie angle for those listening.
Yeah, has kind of always been where he lives. But I think he was 46. He's used longer putters, he's used shorter putters, he's used bigger grips, and this is again, it's a traditional grip that he's kind of always been in his wheelhouse. Amazing feel, but I think that getting the right length has probably got the lie angle. He's gone for 35 and a half at his lie angle, and that's where the putter sits in the right position in terms of his setup and the way the sole sits on the turf.
Because people don't think about that much. So those two things affect one another dramatically,
weight,
don't they?
Right, and the weight as well. So you think of how many variables there are in a putter. It's endless, right? I mean, you need 35 drivers in play in a tour event to be called the number one driver on tour that week. You only need 6 or 7 putters. That's how different these things are to each other. From a model standpoint and a setup standpoint, the similarities to what he's always looked at has been the L neck, the lie angle, and the grip. So those are his familiar touch points, and then everything else is just a whole new world to him. I remember sitting with him very, very early days of this process, and what a lot of people do on tour or putter people, and they see somebody testing putters, then they'll just spec the player's putter and they'll just give him the same spec in their option. And I think he was like quite frustrated on the fact that would always happen, because he wanted it to be fitted into a putter. I've never had a putter fitting. Basically, that's what he's basically saying. I've never, I'm the number one player in the world. I've never had a putter fitting. I'm going to work this out. I'm going to work out what works for me, because his feels are amazing. You walk around with him, and Teddy will throw these discs all over the green, and it's like an NBA. It's like Steph Curry shooting threes. Just with feel. He's just rolling it over that disc and feeling the pace, feeling the line. And Phil Kenyon's done an amazing job with Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, it's fantastic. He's turned from what was arguably a significant weakness, bordering on a real strength, isn't it?
Streaky weakness. Like I say, he's always had that feel and that touch and that, and now all of a sudden you bring tech into it that he can't actually. That's working for him behind the scenes. He does hit a putt. He does hit putts off center from time to time. The CG's helping him. The mallet putter is helping him on those off center hits. He does shove the putt sometimes now and then. The groove, the pure old groove in the putter is helping him in that instance. I think. That those things are to see those things help a player at the highest level, and then to think what they can do for a recreational golfer. Come on, you can't help but draw a parallel between that, and it's a great putter. I mean, Spider's been around for so long.
Well, even the true path alignment actively changed what he used on the ball, didn't he? Because he no longer uses the line.
So we made him an Olsen putter, and so we got him to hit. We got him to hit Spiders, and what we noticed was that he was significantly striking the ball more consistently in the same place. So we put a little true path on the top of an Olsen putter, because he was adamant that he needed to use a blade.
Yeah.
So that helped him there. So he won the Hero with an Olsen putter, with that alignment aid on the blade, and that, he said that helped him. I think the difference between a blade putter and a mallet putter for somebody like Scottie is that your bad days are just that much better. And coming back to the all bells and all whistling, what a moment in time where a player of that standard and that level is literally using a putter that you can walk into a shop and pull off the shelf. Essentially, in his weight and obviously all of his specs and that type of thing. But that was a real moment in time for an equipment company like us who really validate our product through performance.
It's fascinating stuff, Adrian. I could sit in here and talk to you for hours. This is great stuff for me, and I hope everyone listening is enjoying it. But I can't. A man who's spent time with some of the best players in the world, I couldn't leave without asking you. You mentioned something earlier about Tiger.
Yes.
Specifically to do with being in the rain, grips, umbrellas. Talk to me about what you were going to tell me there.
Tiger Woods story.
So
I'm a huge Tiger fan, and
he was good, wasn't he?
And still is, man. And to be able to hang out with him is it's kind of an awe moment, like a wow moment, right? So and over the years I've obviously had the opportunity to hang out with him in my world a lot. It feels like a lot, and we one of the things that he would speak about is, like, obviously he never wore like a lot of rain gear, but he would wear like maybe just a shell or whatever. But he's in his words, when you only get wet once, and then you just keep playing. You don't need to keep yourself dry. And the other one is he hardly ever held an umbrella. And the reason he didn't is because he said it messed with his feels and his grip on the golf.
So
club.
because he's holding the handle of an umbrella, which would be a lot thicker.
You know, so he would happily be rained on, and just continue to play golf, which is cool, right? I got another. We did at our photo shoot. I was in an advert with Tiger, and they were filming. It takes a long time to film it because they film the same scene again and again and again, you know, to try, you know, and then they get all their footage from that. So there's a lot of waiting time between shots, and I'm just hanging with Tiger, yeah. So it's
as you do.
It was amazing, and he's got his bag there, a full set of fresh new TaylorMade golf clubs, and he's just looking at them in such detail with me there as he's talking through it. And he'll take my wrench and he'll move the settings around, and he was on a ball count, so he couldn't hit. He couldn't hit because he's still recovering from an injury. And he would look at the club and he would give it to me and go, "What does that look like?" He goes, "That's the way I like it to look." And I'd look at it and I'm like, okay. And that's how you would fit Tiger. You know, Tiger would fit Tiger, and you would have to give him something that really looks phenomenal to him, and it's got to work, right, in a couple of hits. But anyway, long story short, is he can't swing much, but he's basically moved this 3-wood. He's thrown about 6 balls on the ground, and he's literally put full but 30% swings on these balls.
So full in length, but 30% in speed.
But it's only 30% speed and energy and stuff. And I'm not even joking. He picked a spot. It must have been about 40 or 50 yards down the range, and with a 3-wood, he was hitting draws, fades. He said, "Watch the spinny one." He said that to me, "Watch the spinny one," and he would hit it in a certain way that the ball actually had a little bit of spin in it. I was just. You know, his hands are just his secret weapon, and such a...
That's like Mozart saying to you, just listen to this tune I've knocked up.
I'm just going to paint you quickly.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Picasso.
That's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, what a guy.
No, brilliant. That's superb. We've taken up far too much of your time. I really appreciate it. So, from Adrian, from me, Mr. Kickpoint, thanks for listening.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, that was good, wasn't it, Joe? I was very paranoid, sat behind the camera, he'd accidentally switched the microphone off, and that didn't happen.
You ran over and panicked at the end and immediately checked it. I saw your little face go, because it was gold dust. To get that level of insight from someone who works so closely with such an amazing player is fantastic. And he gave me a nickname. I'd like you to refer to me exclusively as Mr. Kickpoint
Bit
from now on.
offended by that, whatever. But you are, to be fair today, Joe, you've been carrying this podcast. I've been sat in the background doing sweet FA, and you've been doing the interviews. Bit I took away from that the most is a massive helicopter comes very close to us.
That's our lift back to the hotel.
Yeah, is about the spider switch when all is said and done. And I think when all is said and done about Scheffler and his career is over and we're reflecting on it, to have an interview with the guy who built his clubs today, where Scheffler could end up in history, might be quite a nice little moment.
The way he spoke about that, what did he say? A moment in time.
Such reverie for it already. And I'm like, that was a couple of years ago.
But like these people, like we talk about equipment, and like we joke about me being nerdy and stuff. These things make a colossal difference. They make a colossal difference to people's careers, people's earnings, people's place in history. Like those changes have made a significant difference to what he does. So the guys that are the catalyst and fundamental in understanding and explaining and influencing those decisions, they're influencing history. I know it sounds dramatic, but they are.
Love that. And the other interview that Adrian you alluded to is out somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't know where yet.
We'll figure that out. You'll find it.
Figure that one out. But for now, Joe, as the sun is setting and I think they want to lock up the kingdom, it's time to leave the kingdom, which is a shame, really, but we've had a great day.
I'm not leaving.
Okay. I'll leave you here.
Lock me in. Lock me in, Mike.
Will you sit there? Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Appreciate your support as always. If you've been watching this, great. If you've been listening, go and watch it because this is a bit of visual feast. We'll be back next week for much of the same, won't we, Joe?
I certainly hope so.
I hope so too. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.